Okay, we're back, and for our last segment in this program, we get a Southern point of view from our friend Frank from Virginia, who portrays Frank, a German immigrant from Germany, obviously, and he's a horse breeder, and he's giving a speech to the ladies of Gettysburg on the problems between the North and the South, and it's from the Southern point of view. So here he is, Frank, our good friend.
I am Francis Fuchs. I'm from Amelia County in the Commonwealth of Virginia, horse breeder by trade. As you see, I brought my soapbox with me, but we're under this cover here and I don't believe I'll need it today, but I've been speaking from that soapbox for a year or so now, and that's what I've come here to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to talk to you, good citizens and ladies, about. I'm going to give this talk to as many of the citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania as I can before I have to return to Virginia, but I'm very happy to speak to this group of mostly ladies. Now, I'm well aware of the fact that you cannot vote and participate directly in politics, but if you're anything like the ladies of Virginia, and I'm sure you are, you have a great influence on your husband and their politics and how they vote. Sometimes the ladies can have more influence than the men, and that's good. Because our country, or countries, and that is the question, have never faced the crisis that we face right now in this time, early in July of this year of 1861. This is why I've come to Adams County in this town, fair town of Gettysburg. The tensions that are facing our country or countries, again, have never been so great. Not even since the days of the Great War for Independence. As you well know, the issues have been boiling for quite some time. Some of the northernmost states have threatened secession. Now South Carolina and the other southern states, including my own home state of Virginia, have seceded. It's been coming for years, but it's here now. First, the talk starting in this past summer was, would there be secession? I spent many months on this soapbox campaigning for Mr. John C. Breckinridge for president. I had sincerely hoped he would be the elected candidate. Like many of my Southern brethren, our least hope was the president now, Abraham Lincoln. I don't know what his reasons for it, but our latest president, and here I am somewhat a citizen of a new America, the Confederate States of America, but it's hard for me to not think of myself as a citizen of the United States of America. And that's why I continue to say and then it was our president, James Buchanan, our most recent president, from your own Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Better that he had run a second term than the president now, Abraham Lincoln. But I'm not here to say anything about the administration of Mr. Lincoln to any great extent, because I did what I could campaigning for Mr. Breckinridge. I believe if Mr. Buchanan had stayed in office, President Buchanan or Mr. Breckinridge had been put in office, we would not be in the situation we are now. And I put most of that blame, I'm sorry, on the shoulders of the President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. South Carolina tried to peacefully secede. Made several stipulations. Do not do these things or it will be taken as an act of war, and every time South Carolina said do not do this, President Lincoln responded by doing that very thing, sending the Star of the West ship to reinforce the fort. My own state, the Commonwealth of Virginia, was so vital in the founding of this country. Our first permanent English settlement, 1607, Jamestown. George Washington, the commanding general of the forces that fought for our freedom and independence. His great cavalry general, Light Horse Harry Lee. Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. Thomas Jefferson. We don't, as Virginians, take the idea of secession lightly. We voted not to secede, although we understood the situation and sympathized with our sister southern states. We voted not to secede. Back again, I'm sorry, but to President Lincoln and his call for 75,000 troops to invade the South. We went back into session in Virginia and we voted to secede. We put it to a popular vote and we voted to secede. Not for the reasons of the deeper southern states, but simply because of that. Former colonel and now general in the Confederate Army, Robert E. Lee. Who here, even in Pennsylvania, has not heard of Robert E. Lee, the man who put down the insurrection at Harper's Ferry? Said he never, a career military man who said he never thought he would see the day that a U.S. president would send troops against his own people. The contention of the United States of America right at this very moment is that the southern states have no right to secede. I'm sorry to say they're constitutionally wrong. But looking at it from their point of view, if this is true, if we have no right to secede, then we're still U.S. citizens. Perhaps someone may not agree with our actions. Certainly something needs to be done. Either, and it could have been done early on, secession could have been avoided. States like my own Commonwealth of Virginia sent emissaries to Washington to try to speak with Mr. Lincoln or his cabinet. He refused, his excuse being that it would give credence to this alleged new country of the Confederate States of America. But rather than negotiate, he sends 75,000 troops. Many Southern military officers from Virginia, South Carolina, other states have now resigned from their federal positions. We have raised armies. Even the man we've chosen for president, Jefferson Davis, for 2 short weeks served as Major General of the Defense Forces of Mississippi, his home state. Something is wrong when the states of the Union have to raise armies to defend themselves against invasion from their own government. There has been blood spilled. In my own home state, the so-called Battle of Big Bethel, June 10th. There was no blood spilled, thank God, at Fort Sumter. There's been blood spilled in Alexandria, Virginia. James Jackson, a civilian, killed by federal troops, murdered by federal troops. His only crime, flying the new flag of our new country over his hotel. When Colonel Ellsworth and his fire Zouaves crossed the Potomac and entered the hotel. Has the United States government given up any regard for the Constitution at all? We fought England over these issues, Great Britain. We sat down and wrote our Constitution, and we said never again shall this government do the things that the old government in England and Great Britain did, except under the most extreme circumstances. Shall martial law be declared and the military have rule over civilians and jurisdiction over civilians. Martial law has not been declared. Therefore, Colonel Ellsworth, when he entered the Marshall House Hotel in Virginia, had no authority to do so. Whether you recognize Virginia as a sovereign nation or part of the sovereign nation of the Confederacy, if you still believe that she's part of the United States of America, then Mr. Jackson, James Jackson, the proprietor of that hotel, had rights under the U.S. Constitution. No military officer had any right to enter that hotel, not to go to the roof and remove that flag, that first national flag. When someone comes into your property with no authority and removes it,